Right, so I'm back at the mill on the outskirts of my hometown, and in answer to the title of this video, do I need another old camera in my life? The answer for this particular camera, the Nikon D200, in short, is no. I did envisage for this video on the Nikon D200 to do like a normal review video, or not a review video because they've already been countlessly done, but just to offer up my thoughts as a hobbyist using the D200 for the first time. But frankly, after about 9 months of occasional use, I feel like I've finished with this particular camera, and that's partly down because since then I've also tried another Canon 5D after my difficult experience with the camera first time around, and I think that's now down to the fact that I had a faulty 5D, because my second 5D has been nothing short of amazing, and that's the problem now. Whenever I get a new old camera like the D200, I'm invariably going to be comparing it to the 5D, and for me, I just find that the 5D is a lot better. So why did I buy a Nikon D200 in the first place? And this camera, even though I've only just bought it recently, I say recently, 9 months ago, it did kickstart the trends for me for buying or looking at older digital cameras, and that was primarily because I saw a video that Nigel Danson did on his channel where he pitted his old Nikon D200 with his more modern Nikon Z7 or Z7 II, one of those. But anyway, when he put up the images side by side comparing the outputs of two cameras, I actually thought that the colours and the feel of the image looks a lot better coming out of the D200. Don't get me wrong, the new mirrorless cameras have a place, certainly in terms of resolution, dynamic range, sharpness, autofocus capabilities, well in advance of what these old cameras can offer up, partly because there's a massive gulf in technology advancement between the two cameras. But just from purely looking at the images, I felt at the time that the D2 images for me looked better than his more modern Nikon Z7 images did. So I started to do some research on the Nikon D200, and what tends to make the images from this so special compared to more modern digital cameras, like most modern digital cameras now have CMOS sensors, but this has got a CCD sensor in it, much like the Leica M8. It's only about 12 megapixels, so these CCD sensors are renowned for creating really filmic colors. So as I said, that Nigel Danson video and the D200 started off my craze of buying these older cameras, but I just haven't been as impressed with the D200 as I expected to be, and like I said, I've almost been spoiled by the amazing Canon 5D. Right, so my experience with the D200 is a bit of a strange one. Just holding it in the hand, it feels absolutely great, especially with this 35mm f1.8 lens on the front, which is equivalent to 50mm in full frame equivalent. And it's not the first lens I bought for the Nikon D200. I actually bought a cheap 18 to 55 lens when I first got the camera because I didn't really want to spend too much money in giving the D200 a go. But that particular lens I found was absolutely terrible. So I literally sent it back within the return window and then left the D200 for a while before deciding that I wanted to give it another go. So I treated it to some better glass, here the 35mm f1.8, and then with that on it, I can now compare it to the 5D because I've got a 50mm prime, and also my Fujifilm X-E1 because I've got the 35mm f1.4 for that particular camera. So basically this lens hopefully will give me better results, and then from which I can compare with my other older digital cameras. So like I said, it feels great in the hand and feels great to shoot with, and it's got a nice big viewfinder, and like the 5D you can see all the information in the bottom of the screen. So again, like with the 5D, it's nice and refreshing to go back to these simpler kind of cameras, but In truth, I don't probably find it as intuitive to use compared to the 5D. There's a few more menus to delve into, and even though the screen is quite helpful, again, for whatever reason, I just haven't gelled with it as much as I did with the 5D. Another thing that I find really frustrating with the D200, and I found it again now, like before shooting this video, I took a couple pictures of the mill behind me because it's got some great light on the old wheel there. And when you take a picture with a D200, the picture that comes up on the screen, it looks absolutely brilliant. But when I get it back onto the computer and have a look, I'm often felt a little bit disappointed. The opposite is true for the Canon 5D. Like, I took some images again of the same subject. You look at them on the screen and you're really underwhelmed with how they look. But when you get them back home onto the bigger screen, they look absolutely amazing. While we're talking about image quality and look of images, I generally love the Canon 5D image quality. It's just got such a natural tonality to all my images. I hardly have to do any editing whatsoever, and Lightroom does do pretty well at processing the RAW and giving me a good starting position. Conversely, with the Nikon D200, I hate the look of the initial file that Lightroom offers up, and I really have struggled to find a good preset for that starting editing position because I just don't find the files from the D200 easy to work with compared to those that I get from the Canon 5D. I was looking forward to the D200 because unlike the Canon 5D, the Nikon D200 does have auto ISO, but I really struggled to get results that I was happy with letting the camera just do its own thing. So I've gone back to where I was with the 5D. I've turned off auto ISO and now I select everything manual. So I select the ISO, the aperture, and then let the camera work out the shutter speed and then just adjust the ISO if I need, or if I think that the camera needs a higher shutter speed in order to expose a sharp scene. Right, so I think it's about time now we start looking at some images I've managed to capture with the D200, and then, as tends to happen with my channel now and my style of photography, I like to see what my other cameras can achieve from the same composition and same lighting conditions. One good thing in favour of the Nikon D200 is sometimes when the conditions are right, shooting wide open on f1.8, you almost get this dreamy kind of quality to the images, almost very reminiscent of using the 35mm f1.4 with the Fuji camera. Yeah, that is one saving grace I find with the D200 that I haven't been able to replicate as well with my other cameras yet. But that's probably because, like for instance, back to the Canon 5D again, my fastest lens for that camera at the moment is the 50mm f2.5. So again, if I got a 50mm f1.4 or 1.8, I'm sure I might be able to achieve similar looking results. So anyway, let's just stick up some images and I'll talk through, just in general thoughts, what I feel about them. So definitely with the CCD sensor, I definitely find sometimes that the colours are definitely better with the D200, but I don't generally find the images to be that sharp. One thing against the Nikon D200, and perhaps why it does struggle to produce sharp images compared to other cameras, is that it has a strong AA filter, so that obviously has an impact on the results. But I feel definitely moving forward that if I want a big heavy camera to use for fun, that I can get a lot of creative control from and a shallow depth of field, I'll pick up the equally heavy and big Canon 5D. And then as well, I can also use the APS-C crop sensor Fuji Xe1 for those original special X-Trans 1 colors, and that camera as well gives me much better low light noise performance than the Nikon D200. Yeah, so I definitely feel that I've bought enough older cameras. I feel like now I need to rationalize a little bit. I'm happy with the 5D, so that's pretty much going to be my only older full frame camera that I'm going to own moving forward. Likewise, I'm happy with the Fuji Xe1, even though I'm probably going to dispose of a couple of the lenses that I did buy when I was exploring that system, and just keep to the excellent 35mm f1.4 for that particular system. But certainly the quality and the look of the full frame images which come out of the Canon 5D has certainly made me think about my gear moving forward. And I have suffered a little bit over the last few months of gas, but I do feel that I'm starting to emerge from that bit of paralysis associated with the syndrome, in the fact that I've got a very definitive need at the moment to fill, and that's basically a camera with much better or easier autofocus, especially since getting our puppy Billy a year or so ago now, because I just love capturing her when she's running, and my current camera gear, certainly in the Micro Four Thirds arena, just doesn't give me the consistent sharp images that I'm kind of desiring right now, and it doesn't also give me that look that I can get from using the Canon 5D. So maybe the time now is to look at getting a more modern full frame camera that has AI subject to text for capturing Billy running, but then equally can give me decent creative control more over achieving that 3D dimensionality and depth of field into my images that I'm kind of craving at the moment, owing to the fact that the 5D is such an amazing camera to use. As such, I've also lost a little bit of enthusiasm with Micro Four Thirds over the last couple of years. I think since Olympus pulled out and OM Digital Systems took over, they tend to be just concentrating on the bird in flight photographers. Yeah, I'm not convinced that OM Digital Systems are going to be producing anything for me in the near future. And I know that they released the Olympus OM1, which really was an Olympus product, which they've just brought to market. But I'm just nervous because, yes, the subject detection seems to work great for birds in flight again, but I'm not convinced that it's going to be good enough for my purposes. Yeah, so that's why I'm looking at a full frame camera at the moment, and I think it's a toss-up between a Sony A9, because that's supposed to still have, for my budget, the best autofocus in the market, or alternatively the Canon EOS R6, which is a bit cheaper than a used Sony A9 at the moment. Yeah, I'm not sure which one is right for me at the moment. I think I'm going to have to do a bit more research to decide what to get, because it's probably going to be the most money I've ever spent on a camera, when I'm used to spending 150 quid on the Canon 5D, 65 quid on the Nikon D200, and I think I've probably only paid about 400 or 500 quid for my mirrorless Micro Four Thirds cameras in the past. So yeah, so that's where I am at the moment. And like I said, this video has probably turned into a bit of a Canon 5D review, and don't worry, I will do another video on the Canon 5D. Now I've spent a lot more time with the camera and I know what it's capable of, and that's producing some really amazing and unique images. So I think for this particular video, for the Nikon D200, this is about all I wanted to say about the D200 before I sell it and move it on to a new owner. So as always, thanks for watching. Bye for now.